Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new episode of the Glow Beyond podcast, where we redefine wellness for a skin condition. And I'm your host, Roy Wong. Today we are going to talk about something very special. So last week I started to post a bit of content from my wedding. And of course, like I find so much joy in sharing my wedding. But at the same time, I've got a little bit of mixed feelings after getting different responses from you guys. So yes, there are a lot of congratulations messages. But at the same time, also a lot of people who express to me that, you know what, like the content serves as a source of hope and inspiration for them because like they never really ever believed that they could be loved and they would be accepted by their partner like that and also getting married. It makes me feel very like it gives me this deja vu feeling because at one point in my life, for a very long time actually, I felt the same. Like ever since I have psoriasis at the age of 14, I always felt like that. I was at the same space for a very, very long time. So the peace that I feel right now, the peace in my body and the peace in my state of life right now, I've gone through a lot to reach here. And this is also why I decided to make this episode to kind of share a little bit more details of my journey. So this episode is going to be a very casual episode that I'm gonna answer a few questions from you guys. I've collected some and there are a lot of good questions and I hope that you will enjoy listening to this episode, learning and growing with me. So I did a Q&A on Instagram and I've gotten a lot of great questions. So what I did was I categorized the questions to two categories, before marriage and after marriage. So let's just start with the before marriage category. I've gotten a lot of juicy questions and I can't wait to share all about it with the guys. So question number one, how do you put yourself out there to find someone who loves you for you? Wow, big question already. So, for the ones who are listening to this, chances are maybe you are still in a space where you're still wondering whether or not someone would ever love you because of your skin condition. And I just want to let you know that I was in the same space for a very, very long time. So it's totally normal to doubt yourself. I mean, come to think about it, people who don't have skin condition, they also feel the same way. They have the same fear and also the same insecurity. But because of the fact that we have skin condition, it kind of emphasizes it even more, the insecurity and also the shame and also the doubt. So the only thing I can share with you for this, right? Actually, I went through a phase where I didn't date for 2 years. And for that 2 years, I felt very safe. I felt very in my zone, right? But I also realized that it is still human nature to want to seek love, want to seek companionship, and also we all have this desire to be loved. So the only advice I can share with you guys is do it scared. So I wasn't dating for 2 years and then I realized I want to date after that. I felt that I was ready. Now I look back, the only reason why was because I told myself that, hey, I'm gonna give myself this time frame to cure myself and to heal myself physically so that I can be like physically looking okay to be in a relationship or to even go on dates. Because dating is such a scary experience because you need to put yourself out there for people to judge, to see, and to kind of getting closer to you, which is the scariest thing for people like us. And while you do it scared, you get support. It was very funny to think about the experience that I had was that my friends actually fetched me to my first date, because I was on dating app that time. And it was my first date from Coffee Meets Bagel. I still remember the app. It was so funny because they actually came to fetch me to the first date and also they were dining nearby actually while waiting for me and while when I was done and then only like I meet back with my friends and we went back together. So the fact that they came to fetch me to the date, it really gave me a lot of extra support because I guess when friends were being supportive, it gives you a lot of motivation and push you to do better. So I guess it really helped having that sense of support, and that even if I get rejection from the date, in the end of the day, can still fall back to my friends for comfort and for encouragement. And I think it might be a good idea to share your journey, like how scary it is and how insecure you are, with your closest friends, and seek support from them and see how you guys can journey together, because it could be so fun. I mean, I was thinking if I were to be my own friend, I would probably do the same thing. So allow yourself to be supported throughout this process as well. And honestly, just do it scared, because the risk that you take, what if you really met someone that you really love because of this? And I think the way that your life would change after that, it is just so beautiful. And I think it's just worth the risk. So let's just do it scared, guys. So let's move on to the second question. How did we meet? Funny story is actually we meet on dating apps, because like I think in this era it's very hard to meet people face to face or in physical events. So, and also that time when I was actively dating, it was near the COVID era. So everything was online. Yes, it was difficult, but it kind of gave me the sense of safety as well, because everything has to stay online for a little bit before we meet each other physically. So I think that actually really helped me. I think also to realize that if you do have a pace where you feel comfortable with, don't be afraid to communicate across with your potential partner as well. Like you want to have the conversation of, hey, I am actually feeling more comfortable if we continue chatting a little bit more. Or some people actually prefer to meet physically faster. That's actually up to you. So I'll let you guys decide what's best for yourself. But knowing that you have to decide what's best for yourself, and also you have to communicate across what you want as well. That actually takes a little bit of courage and also assertiveness. And I think it's worth it to do that when you want to establish your sense of safety when it comes to dating. Let's move on to the third question. How did you tell him about your skin condition and what was his reaction? So, funny story. When we first started dating, actually, I didn't feel like I cared too much about how he viewed me, because I was very neutral in terms of my approach towards dating at that point of time. So then I was actually being just myself, and we connected straight away through Instagram. So on Instagram, I was already sharing pictures and content about my skin condition. Of course, he asked certain questions, but he was being very respectful about it. So then, because I didn't really care about how he viewed me, we moved on to having physical meet. So throughout the whole process, for him embarking on the journey of knowing more about what psoriasis is and what it's like living with psoriasis, honestly, like I don't think Ruben really cared. And also during that time, I was actually going through a very, very, very bad flare-up. I don't know if you remember, it was a time where I was using this cream from China, and I had withdrawal symptoms from heavy dose of steroid in the cream. Among all the guys that I've met from dating apps, he was the only one who sent me the text saying he saw my content and that he would keep me in his prayer. So I just found it very sweet that even though I wasn't interested in him, he was being very sweet, and that I can be friends with him. And that's how we continued the relationship as friends, actually. So going back to his reaction, so yes, I don't think he reacted a lot. He just reacted very neutrally. He just treated it as a piece of information about someone, and it did not, I don't think it affected the way that he see me as a person, which I find that refreshing and also liberating. I'm not saying all my experiences on dating apps are pleasant. There are a few conversations that I had on dating app that, I told them about my skin condition, and that they were very open to communicate with me that that was not what they were looking for. And I really appreciated that because I've always been a person who appreciate upfront communication instead of being wishy-washy about things. Like if you know that this is not for you, tell me and we can end it there and then. And I would very much prefer that. So another part of this question is, did you feel the need to be upfront about your? We decided that, hey, maybe we can move forward seriously. So then I actually had a very serious conversation with him before we got together because knowing that he's also a person who is very serious about relationship. So I told him about the worst state of my condition and how it can look like and how it can affect our relationship and our dynamic. And also, the state of my health can potentially impact our financial state in the future as a family. I think it really helped the fact that when we were dating, I was also having my worst flare up as well. And he saw me through that. And that for him to still decide that he wants to be with me, give me the safety to actually communicate about all this with him and to tell him that look, this really can be worse. Are you really sure that this is what you want? Are you really sure that you really want to build a life with me? Even though this can become our reality somewhere down the road. It's not 100% for sure, but this can totally be a possibility. And I think I choose to not wait and have this conversation before we officially got together because I want to start our relationship on a very honest ground. And that I also thought that it was very important for both of us to learn how to manage expectation. I mean, especially me, for sure, because I know more about this condition. And it was my responsibility to educate him, to make him aware about certain situations and also manage expectation when it comes to getting into a relationship and what does it look like. So I guess I am pretty proud of myself to be able to do that. And also I would also want to thank him for creating the sense of safety for me to have that conversation. At the same time, my mindset was that I didn't even dare to be very invested in this relationship at that point of time because I was very scared to lose things. It's like you're so used to losing things because I always expect my relationship to end because of my skin condition because I always view myself as a burden in a relationship. Then I didn't even dare to invest emotionally into the relationship in the beginning as well because I was being defensive and protective of myself. I could have this conversation quite a neutral ground. I'm not sure if that's a good thing, but I think it's always a good thing to be aware of this dynamic to enable us to move forward um, practically. To be honest, I think that is actually quite important to manage each other expectation and to have conversation on a very honest and neutral ground. I think that really help. So yeah, I hope that helps. Let's move on to the next question. Question number 4. Did you first feel self-conscious? I think it's also very, very similar along the lines with questions where people ask me, have you ever felt low self-esteem when you're with your partner? Of course, I've always felt low self-esteem. I've always been very self-conscious and also very insecure about the fact that I have this skin condition. I've always felt that I'm less than compared to other people. Like, why would you choose me, someone who is unhealthy, when you have all the power and freedom of choice to choose someone who is perfectly healthy and also attractive? So the comparison has always been there, and I have always been very aware of it. But I really try my very best to not let it stop me. So there's this saying that I always put near my heart. Don't ever be the person who say no to yourself before any other people. Even though sometimes when you put yourself in situations that you may face rejection, I think when it comes to fulfillment of relationship, I truly believe that the risk is always worth it to take because the return can be so rich and so beautiful. when it comes to dealing with low self-esteem and insecurity, I know that it can be really, really, really scary because I've been through it myself. The only advice is for sure, number one, do it scared, feel the fear and do it anyway, because everything that you possibly want is on the other side of fear. This is a very powerful quote that I live by every single day of my life. And second piece of advice I can share with you is honestly, just choose well. When you have lower confidence and lower self-esteem, and when you constantly feel like you're less than, it is so normal to settle for less. I have done this for a very long time with multiple partners. I believe that everybody, we go through growth at a different pace, and I think when we choose to date someone who perhaps do not have the growth mindset, or even they were still in their initial phase of the growth, sometimes you just became each other's experiment and also learning ground to grow. And growth is often very painful, and growth can often only happen when we make mistake. And mistake can really be scarring and traumatic and also very painful. So then I recall when I was younger, in my 20s, I did get into a few relationships that I was having quite unhealthy dynamic. I was being very reliant emotionally, and also my partner then was also immature in a sense where they didn't know how to communicate, they didn't know how to self-regulate. So then everything was just messy. And for sure, I'm very grateful for the growth. But looking back, I would actually tell my younger self to choose well and possibly maybe just skip 1 or 2%. Like it's totally okay to not date when I was so insecure and crazy and also like just overall confused as young adults. There's also this saying that goes like, the most important decision for your lifetime is actually choosing a right partner. And choosing the right partner can impact the level of your happiness and fulfillment of your life. And it's also especially important for people like us, where we require a more gentle and safe environment to grow together and to also nurture and nourish a relationship. So choose someone gentle, choose someone who is big-hearted, choose someone who knows what he wants from life. And what I remember about having this conversation with Ruben was that because I was insecure and also doubtful of his choice, I was constantly questioning him. I say, "Hey, are you really sure about this? Like, are you really sure that I am who you want and I'm who you choose? Are you really, really sure?" So what he told me was that he has never wavered in his decision because he know what matters. And I think when it comes to living with a condition, being viewed like that, I was being viewed beyond my skin because he's telling me that who I am matter more than how I look like. That was life changing and that was so comforting. And I think something so simple, to be viewed beyond our skin, to be appreciated beyond how we look like, it was so healing, and it something so simple can only come from someone who is big-hearted and also someone who really knows what matters in life. And I guess it really takes a certain level of maturity to understand and to say that to someone like me. So yeah, I guess I hope this helps. All right, let's move on to the next question. I have psoriasis for the past 17 years and I'm very afraid to get into relationships. So how do I overcome it? And I think it's very similar to this question also. How do I overcome the feeling of feeling inadequate or undeserving to be loved because of psoriasis? And I guess when people say overcome, is actually overcoming their own insecurity and shame and fear. It's very similar to the previous question. And I think what really pains me was reading this response from a follower. He or she say that I never dared to be in a relationship because of my skin. And I've actually also met people that they told me that because of their skin condition, it actually caused the relationship to end. And also, yes, there are a lot of people who never ever dare to put themselves out there because of their skin condition. I understand this can be a very scary thing because I was there. The only thing I can share with you, right, just like bungee jump, which I did 2 weeks ago, my husband, is that sometimes the more we overthink things, the scarier it becomes because we are just spiraling in our own bubble and our own perspective. I acknowledge and validate that it can be incredibly difficult to get out of it. But one thing that I would really like to remind you is how you view yourself doesn't necessarily equal how people view you. And I think this really helped me to really push myself out there to prove to myself that is it really true that nobody would ever love me because of my skin condition? Number one, is to have this doubt. Number two, what really helped me was actually I met someone who more extensive psoriasis on his skin compared to me, which means that his condition is actually more severe. But this person, right? I really, really admired this person. And at one point, I think I was a bit attracted to this person. And then this experience made me realize that, hey, if I can view someone beyond skin condition, what if someone is able to do that to me too? The third thing that I really want to share with you from experience is that I took the risk to put myself out there. And I went through a very crazy times, very fearful, very insecure phase of online dating. And I took the risk, went through that, and end up here. It took a few years. Looking back, I just want to also say again that it was a risk worth taking because the experience of being loved beyond my skin was everything and is everything. And the only reason why I'm able to experience this today is the fact that I remain open to love, I remain open to life, and that I took the first step. So taking the first step is everything because you will not know what happened after that, which is very scary because you will be hurt, you will be rejected, but you will also be loved. And I really, really hope that for the ones who are listening to this, let's choose to focus on the best possible outcome because I really, truly believe that life is worth fighting for and that we should really give ourselves the opportunity to fight for the love and the life that we want for ourselves. So do it scared, but do it anyway, right? Okay, let's move on to the next question. Was it hard to open up about psoriasis when you guys started? And were you scared that your partner might judge you? So I guess I think I've answered this partly in the previous questions before. It was hard and it was not hard. It was hard because I cared. It was not hard because I cared less. So then I think for people like us, it's very important to draw the line, to draw boundaries and to be protective of our feelings and our emotions and our investment so that we can have this conversation very openly, like practice honest communication without putting ourselves in situations that we were overly vulnerable and that we could get hurt in return. Make sure that you are putting yourself in situations that you are appreciated for who you are instead of going through it with your eyes blindfolded. I really empathize because we're always a person who is very scared to expect anything in return. But always remember that relationship is a two-way street. So if you know that you're capable of loving someone very powerfully, do expect that in return, honestly. And that if this person that you're seeing, you know that this person don't have the capacity and the capability to love you the way that you want, and also to provide you the sense of safety environment for you to grow in a relationship together, then maybe perhaps you want to rethink your decision. So always remember, yes, relationship is a two-way street. Remember that as that person has the power to make decision, don't forget you also have the power to make the decision for yourself too. So always empower yourself with that. All right? Next question. How to be confident? I often feel like no one would ever want me or be interested in me because of my skin condition. And I think how to be confident, right? It really comes in a package because the gist of it is you really have to know who you are, what values do you stand for, and to live your life according to the values that you choose for yourself, because that will give you the sense of self, the stronger sense of self, which also give you a stronger identity. I think for the first episode or second episode of the podcast for season 1, I have also put together a few episodes talking about how do you grow into a strong identity despite your skin condition, and also how do you build your self-esteem, and also how do you understand your emotions. It's a really a whole package of the steps that you have to take to get to know yourself, to build yourself. I think there was one episode is that I mentioned about building a library of self is something that I use for my whole life to kind of like strengthen my identity and sense of self. So I really hope that you will check it out. Let's move on to the next question. How did you know that he loves you genuinely beyond all the superficial imperfections? I think I grew up believing that no one would ever love me beyond my skin condition. And because of that, I've always felt that I am less than, very insecure, very shameful, very fearful about people getting close to me. So then, how did I know that he loved me genuinely? All right, good question. I guess it is because when we first got together, like I mentioned, I was actually going through a very, very bad flare up. It was so bad that like my whole forehead would be swollen and red. My whole of my skin was very red, very flaky. And at the point of time, because COVID was still happening, right? I went through 2 times of COVID flare. I don't know if you know about COVID flare, how it looks like, but it was really very bad. And the flare up would last for 5 weeks at least. I remember because I counted, it was the longest 5 weeks of my life. And at that point of time, we were also actively traveling. So I had no choice but to be close to him, right? Like he was there, right? Looking at my skin, seeing me going through a very bad flare up. So, of course, at that point of time, I was very anxious, I was very insecure, but I told myself that this person chose to be with me. So let's just also try, give him the benefit of the doubt, which I did. And then, because of this situation, he showed me what it's like being truly accepted despite how I look like. It just seems like in his eyes, how I look like, it really doesn't matter, because he also understood that this is something that I have no control over. I just really have to give it time for the COVID flare to subside. And he really gave me the space to just flare and to just be in and just be my ugliest and flairest self. And I think that really gave me the freedom and liberation to understand, right? That, hey, this person truly love me and see me beyond my skin. And that's how I truly understand and believe that he loved me and he chose to be with me because of who I am and not because of my skin. So, yeah. Okay, last question for the first category. How do you go exposing your skin to Ruben's family or even extended family, and whether there were unsolicited advice coming from their end, and how did you deal with it? Yeah, and was there a lot of opposition from his family? How did you cope with this? I love this question because oftentimes we're so focused on, like, hunting for a good partner. We actually forgot that after that, you need to deal with his family, because when you get married, it's basically two family merging together. And I think you would want to be in family that accept you and also make you feel safe, despite of your skin condition. So yes, I love this question. So the story is, in the beginning when we first got together, because Ruben was very serious about our relationship, so he was actually quite excited to so initially when we first got together, Ruben was very serious about this relationship. So of course he had the intention of me meeting his family. But I was the one who told him that, look, like, our relationship is still very fresh. Let's just wait for 6 months before I meet your family. But in the end, it didn't work out that way, because eventually his family realized that he was in a relationship. So we did meet each other even earlier, before the 6 months mark. And so because of that, I was feeling very, very, very insecure, very, very anxious, because of course you would want your possible future in-laws to kind of like you, right? And accept you. And I've heard so many stories of, how people like us being mistreated and also being judged as well. It's a very real situation. I'm not going to sugarcoat the reality. I also heard some stories like people like us will feel very shameful, especially when you go to their home and you're flaking all around the house. It's a very real challenge, I would say. What really helped was that I actually had this conversation with Ruben before we got together. I actually told him that I know that you are feeling certain about this relationship right now, but what if you introduce me to your family and don't agree with this relationship because of my skin, or they disapprove of me because of my skin? We always make decision and expect the worst outcome so that we can prepare for the worst. And I actually had to have this conversation with him, and he reassured me again and again that we are a team, and that if they disapprove me, he will just give them time to get to know me. That answer was really touching, because I think he was really confident in who I am, that he believes that his family has the right value to also see me beyond my skin. The one thing that really convinced me to move forward with meeting his family was because of the values that he holds. And I believe that perhaps his parents and his siblings hold similar values as well, and that they truly knows what matters about a person and wouldn't judge me because of my skin condition. So having real honest conversation to manage each other's expectation, and also having strategy to manage the worst outcome. Second thing was that upon meeting his family members, I think on behalf of me, he did some simple explanation about skin condition that I have to his family. And one thing that I really appreciated about his family and his parents is the fact that they are willing to be educated about skin condition, and that they read up on maybe Google, and they have a basic understanding about my skin condition. So that was very helpful, because they understood that it was not contagious, and that yes, that could be possibility that our future children can have psoriasis, but they also understood that it can be managed, which I am doing every day so diligently as well. When we first got together, like I mentioned, I was still going through quite bad flare up from the withdrawal symptoms from steroid cream and my flare up from COVID. So then it was very scary, because I had to visit his family home when my skin was flaring up. So I was so anxious that I was asking my friend, like, hey, I have to go Ruben's house next week and my skin is still flaring up. What can I do? And my friend was being very practical. And I think me and my friend, we also hold very similar values that we really want to practice honest and open communication. So she suggested for me to message Ruben's mother directly to tell her that, hey, my skin is actually flaring up. I just want to let you know that it's looking redder than usual and it's also drier than usual. And just do expect that so that they wouldn't react on the spot, right? I informed them beforehand and also prepare them for their response towards me. But thankfully, I'm really grateful that I think overall Ruben's parents and Ruben's family are really open and they are educated about skin condition. They are willing to educate themselves about skin condition and they are not judgmental at all. And even for Ruben's extended family, because my skin condition is so extensive, right? And I can't possibly cover it. And I think at that point of time, I was already wearing t-shirts and shorts and then I was showing my skin. I'm just very grateful to share that nobody made me feel uncomfortable about my skin. For sure, they were unsolicited advice, but I think it was presented and shared with me in the best way possible. They were gentle, they were respectful, and they will also be very understanding. So I think in a sense also it's also for me to draw the boundary, right? Like I think we can really balance the fact that we appreciate their sharing because of their good intention, because we wouldn't know also, right? Like, what if the product and also what if the suggestion from a person sharing can lead to us finding the right treatment and support for ourselves and our journey? Because of that, we should always remain open. But at the same time, when a piece of information is being presented to us and we know that it's not going to be helpful according to our experience and also our journey, it's also okay to accept the advice, but also telling them that, I'm really grateful for you for sharing this, but I have tried similar things in the past and it didn't work for me. But I really appreciate your sharing. So I think it's really okay to respond this way, to also stand your ground when you feel like somebody is pushing something towards you. So yeah, and I think one thing that I really am aware is that I really believe that even for Ruben's family, right? Everybody have good intention. And I think that is really helpful in helping me to kind of like bracing myself to face similar situations like this. Yeah. This is easier said than done. Like you say it so easily, but when you're doing it, when you're feeling the fear and anxiety, is so hard. I just want to tell you, I truly understand because I'm just like you, to be honest. It's just that I really give myself the chance to put myself out there for the world to prove to me, is the world really that scary? Is the world really that judgmental? Like, is there no space for me to exist? And I'm willing to test that. And I'm just very grateful also I'm surrounded by a lot of good people. And he has shown me that there are so many good people out there that are able to provide me the space for me to just exist as I am. Please don't deny this before you try it for yourself. Like I say, it's always worth the risk. And I just really hope that no matter what, if you're hurting, if you're scared, do it anyway. Try it anyway, because you wouldn't know what's on the other side of fear unless you go for it. And last thing that I also want to share is I had this conversation with my friend, right? And he also told me that maybe you should share something about how do you find good potential partner out there. Because honestly, as much as I appreciate being human, right? People being human, but sometimes certain individuals, I think it makes more sense to avoid. Just to be very truthful here. But I guess having dated people who are not that ideal for me and also right now ended up with someone so amazing and also married, happily married. Of course, I have to be happily married, right? It's just 1 month, right? But I guess also what's really helpful in this sense is knowing what we want, right? Build a checklist. I think that will be very helpful. But at the same time, when you build the checklist, I truly understand when we struggle with low self-esteem and feeling like not good enough, it's very hard for us to build a checklist very practically, very honestly with ourselves because we are so scared to expect. But I just want to remind you, when you build the checklist, let's just assume that you are perfect the way you are. And I truly believe that the universe and God created us the way we are for a reason. And we are being put on this earth for a purpose. And perhaps sometimes your purpose is to allow someone to love you for who you are. So deny that. And also, this perspective really teach me to appreciate all things about myself, despite all the shortcomings and all the imperfections and all the flaws, because we are all flawed human beings anyway, right? Okay, so I guess that's it for this category. So thank you for listening. I think I will keep the remaining questions in the second category for the next episode because it's getting a bit long. So, yes, I really, really hope that all the sharing helps, and all the best for your journey chasing love and also being loved, actually. And I wish you all the best, and I love you so, so much dearly. Whoever who's listening to this, if you feel like you're not loved, let me just tell you, I really love you too. We share the same journey and we face the same challenges. And I just want us to keep going and keep living. Please don't forget to glow beyond your skin condition. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.